but I was in hell. Because all I was doing was obsessing over her with this guy who was playing for the Steelers, to the point where the only like thing I was focused on, I looked up his combine stats and I was like, which one of these can I compete with? Like, that fucking matters.
I believe that each and every one of us has the power within ourselves to create the life that we really want. And I want to help give you the tools to make that happen. I'm Danica Patrick, and I'm pretty intense. Today on the show is another pretty intense person. His name is Aubrey Marcus. Aubrey is the founder of On It, which is a lifestyle brand that's based on holistic health. So they have products as well as equipment and anything to do with your overall wellness to take care of yourself. He's a motivational speaker. He, of course, has his own podcast. It has a huge following. And he just really believes in optimizing your total health with mind and body. He's also known for raising awareness for psychedelics. So as you can imagine, we had a really interesting conversation. And he also believes in open relationships. I mean, look, I had a lot of questions, and I'm not going to say judgments, but for the record, I don't think that I would do some of the things that he does, but that's okay, because it's our differences that make us interesting, and they also create great conversations. So we dove into some of those very interesting topics pretty well, and I came away with definitely an amount of respect for him. And ultimately, his goal, though, is to grow, and grow he does. Enjoy. So one of the things that I think I just admire so much in people is when they have a passion for something and they find a way to make that into their job, their life, their reality. And so that's On It, right?
It is.
Like, what a cool company. I just want to hear about it. I want to hear, first off, what made you want to start that company?
That's the culmination of really what I'd always loved the most, which was the dedication to being a little bit better tomorrow than you were today, right? Like, in whatever that was, that's what I was the most passionate about. Is like, how do you get better? And I was a little bit obsessed with it, maybe a little too competitive. Maybe I had a lot of other reasons why I was kind of into it, but the process of becoming better and finding the tools to make myself better, that was always something that drove me. And so creating and having the opportunity to create a company that's dedicated to that purpose, we call it total human optimization, like all of the ways that you can get a little bit better at whatever you want to do, and build a company around that. I mean, it's such a dream to be able to have something that I'm that passionate about, and then have a business that can do that for so many other people, provide all the tools, the mindsets, the different ways that people can access that state of, and the confidence to get a little bit better.
Give an overview of the company, and then I'd like to kind of dive in a little bit further into more details, but I think it's be beneficial for people to understand the scope of it first.
Yeah, I mean, it started with supplementation, and this started for me when I was really young. So my stepmom worked with all of Pat Riley's teams.
Oh.
And so that was the Lakers in the 80s, that was the Knicks in the 90s, that was the Heat in the 2000s. And so I was a basketball player myself. So she had a lot of nutritional supplements that she would work with these athletes. So every game day, I had a stack of supplements on a paper towel, and they worked. They were good.
What's
they made a
worked,
difference.
then? What did you feel?
I knew that when I was performing out there, I had a little bit more stamina, I had a little bit more clarity, I just felt more supported in my body, like my mental focus, my physical endurance, these different things were slightly modulated to they were improved.
That you noticed.
I noticed it was
powerful.
It was noticeable, and she wouldn't give those to me. It was just a game, that was the game day stack. And then there was a test day. There was a test day stack, and these were different colored stuff. I didn't care enough to really go in and figure out what they were. She was just my stepmom, and she provided this. But I knew that they were different. There was a different number of them. They were a different color. And on test days, I felt my brain firing a little bit better. So I had this understanding in my head that these, natural compounds, because she only dealt with these natural substances, could actually improve my performance in a way that I could feel. So I carried that with me through my life and understood that, supplementation was something that I could use in a targeted way to improve my performance. And that's really where On It started, but that's just where it started. It just started with the supplements.
That was the idea, right?
That was the idea.
Observing that it worked.
Observing that it worked. And then realizing that, well, all right, if I have a test day and I have a paper towel full of like 9 different things, what if I took all 9 of those different things and put them in one pill, right? And that made it way easier. Yeah, and that was the aha moment.
Easier.
That was the improvement to the market, because I would go to my shelf and like when I had to perform mentally for whatever task that might be, I would have to take this pill out of this bottle and this pill out of this bottle and this pill out of this bottle. And sometimes I would just be too lazy to do it. But I was like, if I combine these all in one, you know, then that could be something that was really special. Then I could just increase the dose or decrease the dose depending on how strong I wanted it to be, but I would have everything I needed in that same formula. And so that's where it started. It started with those. But I knew that that's not where it was going to end, because you can't just take supplements. You got to eat right. You got to also have the right mindset, and you got to train right in order to have the results that are going to get you where you want to go. So where On It started with the supplements like Alpha Brain, Shroom Tech Sport, and New Mood, and these different concepts where I combined a bunch of ingredients in one formula. Brain, okay, Alpha Brain. Mood, okay, New Mood. You know, Sport, okay, Shroom Tech Sport. Like, got it. You know, like that's where it started. But then we started to add in all of these other training methodologies, all these other mindset practices, all the other functional foods, and really created this company around that idea.
So your first product was?
The first real product for On It was Alpha Brain. We had I was experimenting with some hangover supplements because I was partying.
That could apply to so many of us.
I was partying a lot. I was partying a lot back then. And so that was probably one of the things that I personally needed the most at that point. But realizing that if I'm trying to sell $35, hangover supplements, people are like, no.
Yes, are you kidding me? You wouldn't pay $35 to get rid of a hangover. I'd pay a lot of money.
Apparently the world didn't want to pay that.
Well, that's just short-sighted. You'd accomplish so much more of your day and get a workout in.
I agree. I thought it was a good idea too, but the world disagreed. But the world agreed with the idea that improving your cognitive performance was something that was worth having a premium supplement, And so that's where Alpha Brain really formed that first kind of shift, that pivot into the company of something that, all right, this isn't something to help us who are doing bad stuff to our body. This is something to help everybody go from good to great. And that's really where we kind of shifted the mentality, and that's kind of July of 2011 where I marked the founding of On It.
Well, I can't wait to try it. I haven't tried any of it, but I feel like it would.
You guys are going to get a super care package. It's going to be like a giant box. It's going to be like the UN comes in with a helicopter and like drops a crate, and then it's just going to be everywhere.
Drone delivery?
Drone delivery.
Drone delivery. Well, I think that you also have workout programs, right? So we were kind of talking about this before because I do CrossFit, and I was looking at your gym in Austin, Texas, where you're based, right? And just kind of, you have those primal bells, which are awesome. They have they're a gorilla kettlebell basically, which are super cool. But your gym, when we were talking about it, like I said, it looks like it reminds me of what I do with CrossFit, with kind of that open gym and primal bell, kettlebells, and lifting weights,
similar
PRs
organization,
and,
for sure.
So, but you started to sort of explain to me what was different, which was really interesting to me because I love learning more and going deeper. So, tell me what makes your gym unique.
Well, let me talk about the beautiful parts about CrossFit. The beautiful parts about CrossFit is the community that it creates.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody is striving towards the same workout. They're doing the same thing. Yeah. You get to put your name on the board. And everybody, it's so supportive. I've gone through my fair share of those workouts. It's so supportive. Everybody's encouraging each other.
You're cheering for the last place person, the more than the first place
everybody's
by far.
Everybody's fired up and everybody's supporting themselves. So we tried to keep that aspect of things, right? Like where we want people to like really be encouraging each other. So we'll have relays on the ski erg and the assault bikes and the different ways that we're training and these different circuits that we're doing, and try to build that, and then write the names on the board. But what we're shifting from is the kind of strict adherence to the Olympic style lifts. So focusing a lot more on the unconventional training methodologies, like kettlebell lifting, like steel mace training, like the clubs, and we still do some barbell stuff for sure, but you're not going to see people doing as many kind of
steel mace.
So steel mace is like an old, from the 1200s, it was an old Persian Pelwani wrestler training methodology where they have a big weighted head, and we made them steel. They used to be made out of different material, but a big weighted head and then a hollow handle so that the weight is extremely offset. And what you do with that is you get it in a lot of rotational movements, and then you can use that unbalanced weight to help your kind of proprioception and help stabilize yourself so that you're lifting and doing explosive exercise, but also focusing on stability rather than the symmetrical lifting that you find in kind of barbell training. But even in our barbell training, we'll do some off-weighted stuff. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried to do bench press with just one weight on one side. Have you ever tried that?
Can't say I have. Accidentally.
It's good.
Accidentally, I'm like, that sure wasn't a 10 on that side.
Right.
That was
It's
a 50.
so hard. Like, you think you're a stud, like go in there and then put a 45 on one side of the bar and do your bench press that way and have nothing on the other side of the bar.
Yeah.
Like, watch what your body has to do to compensate to that offloaded weight. Because in actuality, that's the way it is. Like, someone's going to be, if you're in like a contact sport of any sort, or you're competing or doing anything, you're going to have somebody on your right side that's not on your left side that's giving you resistance, or you're going to have things that are offloaded. So it's preparing people for more functional, like a more functional life of exercise, training. And that's not everything we do, but we mix that in kind of an interesting way and try to find ways to mimic what we would experience in the real world, which is off balance, off weighted in different ways, and then really take a long time to, warm up, cool down, focus on that kind of elasticity of the muscles as well as the explosive kind of power system that can drive you to kind of achieve those, strength and power goals that you're looking for.
What do you do? What's your sort of weekly routine?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Everybody always wonders, like, do I have to work out all day, every day? Do I?
No, definitely not. I mean,
it's...
Sometimes it can be fast. Like we'll have like those self-powered, treadmills that are on the curve.
Oh yeah,
like
the air runner or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a curve, and if you push yourself doing sprints on the curve, doing 1/10 of a mile, and you do 5 to 7 of those, just all out.
Yeah.
You're pretty good.
Yeah.
And you could do like a ski erg test, which is those handles that you're pushing down.
Yep.
And you can go for a 500-meter full sprint on that. Like, how fast can you do that? Or what are these things? And you can actually get pretty much your workout, and you can add some other stuff if you want to. You can get your workout fast that way. And sometimes it's slower. Sometimes I'll just grab the mace, and it'll be more like I'm just dancing and playing for an hour, just twirling it around, moving. And I really try to listen to my body now at this point, because I don't have anything particularly I'm training for. So I just try to mix it up and experiment. Sometimes all I'll do is swim laps. Sometimes I'll go in there and then get in one of those workouts where I'm trying to put my name on the board or competing with somebody.
That variety is valuable.
Yeah.
Whether you're working on super high intensity or, 1 rep maxes versus something where you're going for volume and, something that takes 20 or 30 minutes versus something that takes 5, or for crying out loud, 20 seconds sometimes. It's working different capacities to tune them. You're also an author.
Yeah.
Right? So you have 2 books out. Your last book called Own Your Day, Own Your Life. What was
the first one was
motivation
really like
for
an online course. But so the main book is Own the Day, Own Your Life. And I wanted to put all of the knowledge that I'd accumulated through the founding of On It, through the interaction with so many champions in the sport. I mean, we were talking before the podcast, the initial founding investor in On It was Bodie Miller. And that's actually where we got the name On It. Was conversations I used to have with him. And for those of you who don't know, he's an Olympic skier, won the gold world championships, and an amazing athlete across the board.
What did he say to you? You're so on it.
That we would say that about anything. Like,
really?
It didn't matter what we were doing. Like, if he skied a good race, he's like, man, I was fucking on it. I mean, I crashed, but I was on it. Like, and like if we were playing pickup basketball, I'd be like, man, I was on it today. If we were in the club, like, I was on it, or like whatever it was. That was just the epitome of us being at our very best.
Super authentic.
So that was like, well, let's just call the company that, and let's make it about that. Let's make it about creating those moments where you're like, man, I was on it.
How old is the company?
July 2011.
Okay.
was when that was really the start of it. Yeah, so then taking all of this knowledge that we've gained throughout the years from, he was a skiing champion, to the MMA champions, to the football, to the, basketball, baseball, all the other extreme sports, all the different doctors and all the different, exercise physiologists and kinesiologists and all the nutritional experts, and putting this all together, really is where the company was founded. But then the company's this wide-ranging, thing of all of these different tools. But how do you make that concise enough to really help people in a guided way? Like, it was difficult to get and access all that information, even though we had this company. So it's like, I want to write it all down, put it in a book. And what's the best way to do it? Well, we thought about, a lot of books have these 40-day challenges and these 30-day things, and most people drop off after 5 days. And you really look at the adherence to these longer programs, 100%. And it's not that great. I was like, all right, well, what if you just lived one day the best you possibly could? And then you could repeat that day however many times you wanted to.
Way to think of it.
And so that was really the formation of the book. Like, how do you have a repeatable best day possible? And then that starts from what you do when you wake up. Like, what's the first thing you put in your body? And we called it the morning mineral cocktail, right? Which is, a little bit of sea salt, a little bit of lemon, a lot of water. And start your day. Then you start focusing on, all right, your circadian rhythm. Well, you want to get a little light in your system, because that's going to wake the body up.
That's me. I'm light activated. The sun comes up, I'm there.
There it is, right? And that's the way human beings are naturally designed. So you want to get some hydration, mineralization, you want to get some light, and then movement is another way to trigger the circadian rhythm response and actually let you know that you're awake, rather than reaching for that adrenaline button of that cup of coffee is the first thing to wake you up. Get light, do a little movement, and then save your coffee for when you feel that next little lull.
Okay.
And so I'm a coffee drinker too. No doubt about it.
Use it for both, but maybe I'll start thinking about the second cup in the morning to being one cup in the morning.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, try the salt light movement. Because the movement's really key too.
By movement, I mean, I think to myself, I get up, I walk downstairs, I make a cup of coffee.
Not enough.
It's really bright. It's never enough coffee ever. And then, the light's coming in and I feel light activated. Like, that's what's helping me wake up. But when you say movement, please explain, like, how much are you really talking about?
More than that. So it's at the brink of not quite a workout, but more than you would do in a natural state. So for me, my favorite thing is to swim. I have not a huge pool, but even if I swim just 10 laps, and I swim pretty hard, then I get like my breath is moving and I'm like breathing heavy. My heart rate goes up a little higher. It's about like getting your heart rate activated, getting your body moving in that way. So you could do a couple 10 burpees or whatever. You could do some air squats. You could do some push-ups. You could go swimming. You could go for like a quick little jog. Nothing that's going to get you sore or tired in a long way, but it's something to get the blood pumping. And if you do that and then you expose your body to enough light, then the photoreceptors are going to wake up the circadian rhythm. It's going to downregulate the melatonin that's been keeping you asleep and then wake you up in the most natural way. And then for me, then I'll go into my, breakfast, unless I'm doing some kind of cold therapy in the morning, which sometimes I do. I'll go into breakfast, and then it's usually after breakfast that I get, and when breakfast is going to be high fat, higher protein, high nutrient density, lower carbohydrate, because that's just going to make me even sleepier when those carbs cause the insulin spike, and then the insulin comes in, and then you get hypoglycemic, which is the absence of blood sugar, and then you get really tired. So try to keep it higher fat, higher protein, particularly for breakfast. And then after that, that's when I enjoy my cup of coffee. I fucking can't wait for that cup of coffee. Like,
makes that cup of coffee even better.
It makes it so much better because I know I've gone through all of the steps normally that I needed to, and then I have that cup of coffee, blended with some fats. I have a hard time.
I tried to eat on the circadian fasting method. Like, that's like 13 hours off. I can't even do that.
Yeah, intermittent fasting.
Yeah, I suck at it.
That's more than 13 hours.
I'm not really sure that...
You need at least 16 hours.
Yeah, that's not for me. Try and convince me why that's for me or for anybody. Because you do that, right?
I do it sometimes.
Okay.
I actually tend to go with like a full day fast when I feel like I need it. So I'll go like a 36-hour fast. rather than a daily intermittent fast.
Okay.
But really, this is excellent for your metabolism. Like old wisdom used to be, you want to eat a bunch of small meals throughout the day, but really that means that your metabolic system is working constantly. And the body works better when it has time to work hard and then recover for longer periods. So it's giving yourself more of a break to recover. And during those recovery cycles, that's when the body can start some of its natural cleansing and detoxification protocols. Like people think like detox, we got to go do this detox and detox this thing. The body's detoxing 24/7. Naturally. It's happening. So when it has nothing else to do, the body has a certain limited amount of energy. When it has nothing else to do, it's not digesting food, it's not releasing insulin, it's not dealing with all the other things it's doing, then what is it going to be naturally doing? Well, it's going to be cleaning house. It's going to be cleaning the room. And so that's really the principle behind it, is it's healthier for, that kind of longevity and the ability to kind of clean the body while it's not working on something else, which is the digestion and assimilation of these food and nutrients.
Do men and women have a different reaction to this, like
a little
to
bit.
Hunger and this? Because I really hope you're going to say yes, and women need to eat more often, but that's how I feel. But what is the research shown as far as like the hormones go for man?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I think intermittent fasting is almost universally beneficial to men, but with women, it can alter and affect your kind of hormonal profile throughout the day. So being mindful of that, intermittent fasting is not going to be the same. Just biologically, we have different hormone release schedules, and the way that the organism is designed is slightly different. And that also applies to ketogenic diets too. Like pretty much universally, men can handle a much closer adherence to a really high-fat diet and a ketogenic diet protocol. But that may affect the hormone profile of a woman differently, and that's just what the research and the science shows. So you have to be mindful to take a look at that. Generally, it's good to experiment with it and check it out. And if like you haven't really tried it, like you should for sure try it. But also know maybe it's not for you.
Yeah, and I've read that too. I watched some YouTube video on what's the perfect diet, and maybe it was a TED Talk actually, and basically when they went into the science of using people to test the program of certain foods and how it reacted in their body and insulin levels and metabolism and everything, that someone reacted with a huge spike to rice, let's say, and another person didn't react barely at all. And so,
Rob Wolf talks about this a lot. He might be what you're referring to. I think it's book Wired to Eat, where he's actually talking about measuring your blood sugar response. And like somebody will have a huge response to plantains, but not to white rice. And so the way that we are is different. And I think we have to really celebrate that difference of the organism and pay attention and be curious and to like look and see how we feel and like what we're craving, and why, and observe that. And observe it long enough that you don't just
Is it an emotional thing, or is it
right.
a real, true, like physical need?
And look at the body. Like the body is, we look at the body as one thing. The body is a bunch of things. Like your gut, which is where so many of the different cells are. That's a bunch of bacteria, really, that's actually making up the majority of the life form in your body, is all of these bacteria in your gut. So if you have a healthy biome, they may be craving certain foods that are going to be nourishing for them. If you have an unhealthy microbiome, let's say a bunch of candida in your stomach, which is yeast, you may be craving sugar all the time because that's what the yeast wants to thrive. So you might have two different messages coming from your body itself.
Body really does need it, but you need to...
Right, but what part of the body is sending that message? Is this the candida that's saying, yeah, feed me more sugar and alcohol because I want to thrive? And then that's going through your neural pathways and you're saying like, let's have some sugar. But really that's not the real you. That's actually a part of you that's coming in and sending that message. So it's really kind of understanding that we're this amalgamation of all of these cells that have this kind of like loose agreement to work together, but we want the best part of us.
So does that come from literal testing, or is this more of an awareness?
It can come from testing. So you can do like a little poop test and check your microbiome, and nothing better than swabbing your poop and sending it in the mail, and figuring out what's really going on down there.
What can you do this otherwise? Is there a way to sort of just go through like a few-week process of testing something out? Is there more just sort of observation awareness to be a little more present?
I think it's good to have some data first.
Yeah.
So there's a couple ways to do it. One, you can go on at least a minimum 12-day sugar cleanse.
Yeah.
Right? So that's going to actually really chill out the yeast in your stomach. All of us have it to a certain degree, and it's there for a purpose. It actually, a lot of the candida and a lot of the pathogenic organisms in our stomach, they actually hold on to some of the toxins that we're getting, because there's toxins everywhere in our food, in the air, in the water. It's all over the place. So they actually serve the purpose of holding on to that for us and like keeping it inside their cells. That's kind of their food. So we're supposed to have a little bit of that so they can absorb some of those heavier metals or different things that might be coming in. But going through some kind of cleanse so you can actually get that back in balance is one way to do it. So you go through it. Usually the science says about a 12-day sugar cleanse will start to shift, your microbiome. And that's one way to do it. The other way would be do some testing, realize what your issues might be, and then apply some kind of solution to that. That might be helpful as well. A lot of times that will involve a cleanse. Sometimes it can involve a pharmaceutical like an antifungal, or sometimes it can involve, some different dietary choices and some different ways that you're helping your system with probiotics, and then just some of the antifungal foods and supplements that are available that can maybe help you. But yeah, getting some kind of data point where you can really understand what's going on is always really helpful.
Yeah, well, I feel like you agree that the mind is also a really important thing as a part of this puzzle. Like, I think you've said that you love this sort of puzzle of the brain, and it intrigues you, and that's part of what made you want to do the program and write the book, and that there are 3 major themes of the mind to deal with in your life, and the first one being forgiveness for past mistakes. Explain that.
Well, we have this idea that we should have been perfect and should have always been perfect and should have. And really the message is stop shitting on yourself. Like all of us, just stop shitting on yourself. If you could have done better, you would have done better. At that point, you did the best you could with what you had. And really understanding that the you of now cannot go back in time to the you of then and say I should have done that because I know that now. Well, you didn't know that then, and you weren't able to do that. So forgiveness is the crucial piece of saying look, I did the best I could then, and I can do better now, and that's okay. And I can do better tomorrow than I'm able to do today. Who I am right now is tomorrow's idiot. I'm always learning.
So.
Yeah, we're always learning. But the problem is if you don't forgive yourself, then you're going to punish yourself, because we are the adjudicators of our own happiness, our own success. We're the judge. And if we are punishing ourselves for something we did in the past, we're going to deny ourselves the pleasure, enjoyment, success of the present and the future to punish ourselves for that thing that we haven't forgiven ourselves. So we got to forgive ourselves in order to actually change the present and the future. Otherwise, we're going to live in this punishment paradigm where we're going to make ourselves suffer because we feel like we deserve to suffer.
Is there something that comes to mind that you had to do that?
I don't know, all the time.
All the time?
All the time. I just transitioned a long-term relationship that I have that was a beautiful and challenging relationship with, my girlfriend Whitney, and we just transitioned that relationship. And I can look back and be like, wow, what an idiot, asshole, blind, how many mistakes did I make in this whole process? Unbelievable amount of mistakes that I made in this whole process. But nonetheless, that was the best I could at the time, and I know that both of us made these same mistakes, but really we both loved each other the best we could. We really did. And that knowing that we loved each other the best we could and we made all these mistakes has allowed us to be incredible friends and allies and still teammates to this day. And in some ways, that acknowledgement was the crucial part of that. Like, yeah, wow, I'm so sorry. Like, I really did things, that I would never do now. And I'm really sorry about all the ways that I was blind to these things. But, I really did love you the best I could. And she says the same to me. And then we're able to kind of move forward.
Well, where'd you come up with the word transition? Because you use that specifically as opposed to broke up or something like that. And I feel like there's probably a reason.
There is a reason, because I think there's a paradigm, there's a conditioning that says if you're having sex with somebody and you're in a relationship and then you're no longer in that relationship, that person is out of your life. And that's the story that we're told. Mm-hmm. And so it is a breakup. You're breaking up all communication, you're breaking up all alliance, all support that you've had for each other. That's one way you can do it, and sometimes maybe you have to. Maybe if your emotions are entangled or your sexual cravings are so strong that you have to give yourself some space. I get that. But in a more conscious way, you can say, okay, we're going to leave a lot of these things behind. This idea that we're in this relationship, this idea that we're working towards some kind of romantic partnership for the future, but we're just transitioning to a system of support, friendship, alliance, and allowing ourselves to love each other in a more platonic way, love each other like great friends would love each other rather than love each other like great lovers would love each other. But it's just a transition, a shift of framework and structure, but it's not a breakup. It's not that we don't talk anymore. It's not that we aren't going to help each other out. It's not that we're not going to go surfing on the boat, every once in a while and hang and still have the same friends, So I think that's really, the way that I look at it is that it doesn't have to be an end. It can just be something different, an evolution.
Do you feel like this sort of perspective on the relationship is a result of being in an open relationship?
Certainly helps.
Good Lord, it's hard enough with one. Please tell me how you dealt with more. And why? Like, why? That would make it harder, I would think. But go for it.
It was...
You're having a great transition.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done. I've never felt more suffering, more pain, more ego destroying moments where, there was moments where, Whitney would be with one of her other lovers and I would be in so much discomfort in all aspects of, like, particularly emotionally. I remember one time in New York, I was crawling around on the ground. She was with a particularly aggressive lover and that was really hard for me, at that point. And I was crawling around on the ground and I didn't know if I wanted to throw up or punch a wall or cry and I just had to start, I don't pray often, but I just had to actually start praying. I was please help, universe. Please, I can't go any further.
Why did you guys agree to this?
Well, that's the challenging part. But what the reward is of those challenges is you start to understand why that is hurting. Why is this hurting me?
Sure.
What is causing this pain? Why is her enjoying herself and enjoying somebody else? Why is that causing me pain? Why is her happiness causing me pain? Does that need to be there? Or is this my attachment, my competition, my desire to be the special one, my desire to be validated as the only one that she's attracted to, which makes me greater than everybody else, which boosts my, what are the reasons behind this? And then you start to get really curious about that when you really understand, this shouldn't feel this bad. She's having fun or I'm having fun and we're feeling so terrible. Maybe we don't have to feel that terrible. So it ended up being the most valuable learning process that I've ever had. And I really realized through this process that I required the validation of a lover to make me feel like I was worthy of love. I required them wanting me in a sexual way in order for me to feel like I was worthy of even loving myself. And this unwound that pathology through pain and introspection and allowed me to really understand that, which allows me to feel like I'm whole and I don't need anything that I used to need. Because if we didn't go open, we would have just gone into serial monogamy, because she needed the validation of different people loving her. I needed the validation of different people sleeping with me. So we split up, and we would have continued to just go a year, 2 years, however long with a person till we sucked up all the validation that we could get from that person. Then we would have moved on and then sucked it up from somebody else and then moved on. But now I think both of us can be like, wow, that was really fucking hard. But I actually feel whole. I feel like I don't need anything anymore. I feel like I learned my own pathology and healed my own pathology to the point where I'm good.
Do you think that you could still adopt this mentality of sort of disconnecting from the validation and not needing it with one person?
Totally.
Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah.
I think I'd be signed up for that one.
Well, I think feeling whole. I think feeling whole no matter what.
Yeah.
And then celebrating whoever you're with's happiness, genuinely without needing anything from them. So if the person, I'm dating somebody now, and we're just dating, but in the dating process, there's going to be other people that you see. And usually in dating protocol, when you're just starting off dating somebody, you really just don't talk about it. And I was taught look, I'm happy for you to tell me whoever you're seeing. I'll celebrate it with you. Was it good? Did you have a good night? And she's like, what do you mean? This is crazy. I don't trust this. I was like, no, for real. And then she getting more used to it. She's like, yeah, I saw this guy. And I was like, how was it? She's like, it was great. I was like, that's awesome. She's like, this is a trick. I was like, no, it's not a trick. I'm genuinely happy for you. I'm just happy that you're having a great time. And it's really interesting because that's not the old me. The old me would have been fucked up. Would have been really fucked up
on the streets of New York.
Yeah, I would have been like, what is she doing? I wonder if he's better than me. Yeah. I wonder if she's gonna love him more than me. I wonder, oh my God, and I'd be all freaked out and it'd be ruin my day. And now, knowing that I'm whole and that I'm okay, and that if that person is actually better for her, that would be a bummer, but okay, that's fine. Allow that truth to exist, and if that truth is what exists, that's okay, because I'm whole. It's not gonna hurt me. Yeah. If she makes that choice. I'll be bummed out. But if that's the right and best choice, that's the right and best choice.
Don't you think it finds its way anyway, though? If you aren't right for each other, it's going to find its way anyway.
Oh, well.
Without having to complicate things with pain. Which, I mean...
Yeah.
Pain is a topic I want to talk about, but don't you think you can just go through the transition yourself?
Some people,
together with one person?
Yeah, sure. Some people can become whole. This is one way to become whole.
Right.
This is not the way for everybody. I'm not saying...
This is a deep dive into becoming whole.
This is a deep dive. And for people who are particularly screwed up, in this nest, who really have a deep need for validation from the opposite sex, which I did. I don't think there was another way. I did all the ayahuasca, I did all the plant medicine, I did all the other things. I was trying all kinds of stuff, but nothing brought me to my knees to the point where I really had to deal with my need for particularly a female to love me in an intimate way, for me to be able to love myself. That was the necessity for me to be able to love myself. Well, this allowed me to cure that pathology. And for Whitney, it allowed her to cure that for herself as well, in her own way for needing, it wasn't so much about the sex, but it was about the attention, affection, desire, being desired by multiple people. I think both of us can say, yeah, we made a ton of mistakes. Some parts were amazing and some parts were truly amazing. I'm talking about the negative parts. There was amazing parts. We had amazing times together and so much love shared, not only with each other, but with other people as well. But, really it's a path of growth, and what we do in the future, is undetermined. But I think, really looking at this, maybe it's a long-term solution for some people. Maybe it's just a path of growth. I certainly wouldn't do it the same way that we did it. We learned a lot. And we went way too far in some ways, and I think we made a lot of mistakes. Yeah. But that's the learning process. That's the learning process.
And there's another point of your three major mind themes, which is resistance, using resistance as a point of assistance, which kind of feels like this, where you're like, man, this is really freaking hard. And how do you use that as a pivot point to growing? And I have my own sort of saying for that sort of mindset, which is the only way to the other side is through. Like you have to get through it, which it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go back to that moment in New York. Whitney's with her aggressive lover. I'm in New York. I'm crawling around on the ground, not knowing, crying, not knowing if I'm going to vomit, not knowing what I'm going to do. And I asked the universe for help. One thing that's a benefit, because I rarely ask the universe for help. And it's not because I don't need help. It's not something that I do. So putting me to the point where I asked for help, already one major benefit of that moment, right? Yeah. Like it's just being like, yo, I just can't, I need help. Yeah. Like source, universe, God, whatever your vocabulary permits, like I need help. And then I received some help, and I received a message that came through at that moment. And the message was, the sun does not judge itself by the shadows that it casts. And I was like, that is fucking cryptic. And I was thinking about it for a minute. The sun does not judge itself by the shadows that it casts. Okay, so if I'm the sun, I don't need to judge myself by the effect that my light is having. You know, so like the shadows that it casts. So how much she wants me, or how much I'm affecting her, how much she's thinking about me. Those are all the shadows that my light is casting. You know, it's like, that's not how I need to judge myself. That's not how I need to decide whether I'm the sun. Like the sun doesn't look at that person they sunburn. It's like, fuck yeah, I'm the sun. Look, I burned that person. You know, or like, oh yeah, I'm the sun. I created that desert. Oh, I'm the sun. I created that beautiful beach environment. Like, it's just the sun. It is just being the sun. And so that lesson came from an extreme circumstance. So that point of resistance became assistance, and that became something that was this focal point for me understanding the true nature of who I was, which is not judging myself by the effects that I'm having on the world, but judging myself by purely who I am, the essence of who I am, which is, you know, you can call it light, or you can call it energy, or you can call it source, you can call it love. You know, and really love, I think, is the best way to describe the essence of who we are. We're love embodied. And love embodied doesn't judge itself by how many people love it back. It just knows that it's love. So, okay, deepest point of resistance comes deepest metaphysical lesson.
The polarity, of course, right?
The greatest assistance.
This also pointing to the, you know, the dark side, right? Because there's this sort of dark side to us. We have the dark parts of us.
All of us do.
What's that? Explain that.
Well, we're cast into what could be called polarity. And polarity is the expression of love, divinity, light, and then shadow, resistance, darkness. And if those forces weren't equal in power, and then we wouldn't have free will. Right. Because the board would be slanted and everything would slide one way. So like the force of resistance and the force of assistance, the force of light and the force of darkness, they have to be even in order for us to really have choice. Otherwise, it's like loaded dice. If you got loaded dice, you're going to roll sevens, you know, eventually all the time. You're going to win every time playing craps if the dice are loaded, right? Like it's not a game anymore. It's not a game. It's a movie, because everything's shifted. And us as an expression, you know, as within, so without, we're like a little microcosm of the world at large. So inside of us is all the light and all the dark. And sometimes we try to externalize this. We have this idea of like exorcise the demons and, you know, bring in, like the demons are within us, and so is the divinity within us. The God and the devil are both, you know, within the human being, all of those aspects. It's just our choice as to which part of us we want to express, you know, because we're all of it.
Yeah.
And really understanding that we're all of it. We're all the shadows, we're all the darkness, we're all the fucked up thoughts, we're all of that's within us, but we can choose to express on whatever spectrum of the polarity we want to express, from the most extreme enlightened divine side, or from the darkest power-driven, ego-driven denial of our divinity, denial of sameness of all people and all beings. We can express that way too. And you can go through history and see the people who've expressed at the extremes, and then most of us fall somewhere in the middle. But really recognizing that we're all the whole amalgamation of the whole, macrocosm.
Makes me think of a question that I just want to hear your perspective on, because with the, light and the shadow side or the dark side, and the polarity, good and evil. What is your perspective on heaven and hell?
I think that's right here, right now.
I agree.
Heaven and hell is every day. That's where we are. Are we in heaven or are we in hell? I don't know. It's up to you.
It's up to you.
That's really the truth. And people extrapolate, oh, this is an actual place that we're going after we die. No, it's now. Like, we can be in hell or we can be in heaven. And, and that's, I have great examples of that in my own life. Like,
yeah, please do.
I remember one of the first most clear examples of that is I was studying abroad at the University of Queensland, and my girlfriend, who I left at University of Richmond, started seeing a guy who was playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that was really hard for me. I fucking hated that. Brisbane is amazing. Like, the sun is amazing, the people are lovely, like, the food was great, my class schedule was great, but I was in hell. Because all I was doing was obsessing over her with this guy who was playing for the Steelers, to the point where the only thing I was focused on, I looked up his combine stats, and I was like, which one of these can I compete with? Like, that fucking matters. But I did, and I was like, ooh, his 225 bench press number is suspect. I think I can go it. So I put on Pantera on my headphones, and I'd go in the weight room, and I'd just pump bench press until I beat his score, and then I thought that would make me feel better. It didn't. But, that was the hell that I was living in. I was living in a hell of, comparison.
Comparison is the thief of
suffering.
joy.
Yeah, exactly. And all of this. Meanwhile, here I am in Brisbane. I could have been in Surfer's Paradise or Noosa, grabbing a board, having an acai bowl, and just loving life. But where was I? No, I was projecting myself to their bedroom where this guy on the Steelers was just hammering my girlfriend.
Bench pressing.
Yeah.
Damn it.
And that's where I was, and that was my hell. And every single day, we have those choices. Now, certain circumstances are going to lend themselves, and I get this whenever I mention this. People are like, well, what about people in these really challenging environments and challenging areas? I get it. Some things are going to be really hard. It's going to be hard to choose heaven if you're in a concentration camp. It's going to be hard to choose heaven if you're in a war-torn place. But then nonetheless, I've been to the Soweto slums in Africa, and I've been to some of the poorest places on the earth, and I see a lot of happy people there too. And I see a lot of sad people in the Hamptons as well. You know what I mean? So there's true. People creating heavens and hells in a variety of different places. I mean, you go to these slums, they're these little shanties where human feces is rolling down the hill, right? And the kids have a soccer ball that they've kicked the treads off of. All it is the inner bladder with those little weaving things, and maybe one square, and they're playing with that ball like it's the most exciting thing they've ever seen. And then you'll go see kids somewhere else in Greenwich, and they're so annoyed because they're on their iPads.
Their cell phone service is bad.
Yeah, and they're in their own little hell, And then those are the kids, but it extrapolates to the adults as well. Yeah. So really, heaven and hell is something that we get the opportunity to choose. Is this the kingdom of heaven, or is this hell that we're in?
Your point of attention is everything. Mm-hmm. Where you place that really dictates your mood, dictates how you feel.
Totally.
The third major theme is surrender, which is a huge one for me, because completely surrendering to a process or a timeline, detachment for me is the ultimate difficult, thing to wrap my head around, because I'm a forward thinker, not a back thinker. I don't regret anything I've ever done. But I'm sure as hell planning on everything for the next 50 years. And so detachment's tough. So, where did that come from, is understanding that to be a really important discipline.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say that I have these great downloads and I just apply them, but really it comes from the necessity, right? I put myself in uncomfortable positions, and then I see what works and what doesn't work. So an uncomfortable position is doing an ayahuasca ceremony. And ayahuasca is a plant medicine which causes a strong physical purge, and generally they call it either the vine of souls or the vine of death, because it'll have you confront some very dark, challenging issues, usually at some point. It can be anything, really. It's not like a formula. But usually you'll have to confront some very scary things and some very challenging things. And my very first ayahuasca experience, which taught me a great lesson in surrender, which is one of the ways that I learned about surrender, was showing me all of the ways that I could die, and I was dying. So like I had snakes that in my vision state, I had snakes that were coming in, they were eating my organs from the inside out, and I could watch them eat my organs. I was like, whoa, well that's a little bit scary, but I'm okay with that. And then I had spiders crawling in my ears and bursting out of my eyeballs and going to my brain. I was like, that's scary too. And then the other one, which was really, really, I didn't like this one at all. I was sliding down a tree which was made of spikes on the branch of the tree. I was sliding down this tree made of spikes, and I was naked. So I was sliding down this tree, and all the spikes were just eviscerating all my genitals and my stomach, and I was like, "Wow, that's terrible too." But I was still like,
"It's a bummer of a day."
Yeah, and I'm still like, "Well, I'm still kind of okay with all this." But then ayahuasca was like, "You got cancer," and I was like, "No, I don't." And I wrestled with it, and I fought. I was like, "No, I don't. I'm healthy. I'm fine." I started checking my glands, and I was like, "No, I don't." Like, and it's like, "Yeah, you do. You do. You're gonna die. You're gonna die a slow, painful death from cancer." And I was like, "No." And I started resisting, and I was in so much suffering, because when the snakes were coming, the spiders were coming, the vine was coming, I was just kind of like, okay, it's not real. But when I started to get in the resistance of having this cancer diagnosis,
because it's something you don't want.
It was something I was really scared about, because I'd seen my uncle, suffer from it. And I'd known that it was something that had a really visceral response, that my resistance to it, which is the opposite of surrender, was causing this massive suffering. And I was purging, and I was nauseous, and it was horrible. And then finally at the end, just out of exasperation, I go, okay, if I do, so be it. So be it. And I just took a deep breath, and then ayahuasca felt like it came from the ground underneath me and embraced me and held me. And it's like, you don't have cancer. You're fine. You're healthy. And I just lay back on the ground, and I was like, oh.
It's like what we were talking about wanting something so much that the polar opposite of that is not wanting it to not happen. Like you wanted to be healthy so bad that the other side of it, as you so well explained, is, you don't want cancer so much. You don't want to be unhealthy because you want to be healthy so bad.
Yeah, so I had so much fear that I was in so much resistance. And as soon as I surrendered, then I was rewarded with that. And that you can find that in the sweat lodge. You can find that in life, in business, in the open relationship. I had a great mentor as I was going through some of the challenging parts in the open relationship. And he's like, look, this is teaching you to surrender. Surrender to these feelings that you're feeling. Stop resisting them. Stop trying to change them. Just acknowledge and surrender it. And you'll know it's surrender when it doesn't feel hard anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. It's surrender when it doesn't feel hard anymore. I was like, oh, okay. And that's the point where I think people think of it like giving up, but it's not giving up. It's actually having faith that you're going to be okay, that the universe has your back, and that everything is happening as it should. So it's really an act of faith rather than an act of defeat.
Sure. Well, it's like for me in my retirement, I explain to many people, especially when I go do speaking engagements, that I had to learn the difference between quitting and letting go. Like, it's recognizing the signs, feeling things, observing, and not being afraid of what's coming that gives you the opportunity to let go. Let go with grace, as opposed to, quitting, being forced to, or quitting being a negative, or stopping something as a negative. It's a positive. I'm moving forward.
Yeah, you're making the choice. You're owning the choice.
Yeah.
You're empowering yourself.
Yeah.
And also bringing forward the faith that, the next thing that's coming is going to be rad too.
Yeah.
And it's an act of trust.
Yeah.
It's really a trust fall into the universe at that point. And I think there's ways that you can practice that and be rewarded. And when you get used to that, then it becomes easier. And it's not just surrender to the negative stuff too, it's also surrendering to the positive stuff. Like we had a chat about manifestation, right? Like there's resistance to even getting yourself to a positive state where you're manifesting something positive sometimes, But it's because you have resistance, and that resistance is maybe you don't think you deserve it. Maybe you think it's got to be harder. Maybe you think you got to earn it. But if you surrender to that moment and surrender to the joy of that experience, or maybe it's you're afraid that you love somebody so much, you're afraid of losing them, so you're not surrendering to how much you love them.
Right.
You can surrender to your love, right? Like, instead of being in resistance, like, well, I can't love that much because if they leave me, then I'm going to be that hurt.
It's protecting, like
It's
a protective
protecting
layer.
yourself. It's resisting.
Sure.
Whereas like the beauty comes in like, I fucking surrender. And if my heart gets broken, so be it. I surrender to that too. But I'm gonna at least love. I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna love life. I'm gonna love everything without any resistance, without the fear, without any caution, and just really allow it to be, and just trust that I'll be okay.
Right. Oof.
It's hard.
Life lesson.
Yeah.
This lifetime or the next or 10 after that.
However long it takes.
Whatever it is.
However long it takes.
Speaking of, you've mentioned ayahuasca and all kinds of different things. So you're an advocate of psychedelics and plant medicine.
Again, am I an advocate of open relationship? I don't know, maybe if it's right for you. Am I an advocate of plant medicine? I don't know, maybe if it's right for you. It's a very personal choice. It's a lot of times these plant medicines are trials by fire. And are you ready for a trial by fire?
Why are you interested in it? Like, what made you interested in the first place?
Well, because I'm not easily, taught. I'm kind of like, I needed something big to show me. Like, I came into my first vision quest, which was a psilocybin vision quest in the mountains of New Mexico. I came into that, and I was a staunch atheist. I was like, when you die, you die. You're dead. What does it matter? Like, there's no soul. There's no anything like that. Like, sure. I was so sure. But I had enough like curiosity and also reverence for the Native American culture that I was like, okay, vision quest, cool. That sounds good. I'm just leaving high school. Sounds like something that like something that a young warrior should do. So I decided that vision quest was for me, and then I meet this beautiful, shaman out in New Mexico, and she's like, we're gonna have psilocybin tea, and I'm like, oh God. So I grabbed a rock from the.
This is your first time ever.
First time ever with anything. Grabbed a rock from the driveway, and I was like, as long as I hold this rock, I'll know that I'm still here, embodied in this life. And I was like totally freaked out. And then what ended up happening was, up to that point, the most beautiful experience of my life. I felt my body evaporate, and I felt what could only be described as my consciousness, my awareness, or my soul exist independent of my body. And I was like, oh shit, I got some things wrong. Like, I didn't think there was this thing that I'm experiencing in its purest form. I didn't even think this existed. And that moment of complete reevaluation of everything that I had believed was what led me down the path. And so it gave me faith in the process, gave me faith that these plants could be used as teachers for someone as stubborn and sure that he was right as I was, and completely shift my perspective. And that is, to be fair, I say this isn't for everyone, but the clinical research that's coming out is showing pretty reliable data that psilocybin in the right set and setting at the right dose is reliably creating some of these top life experiences for human beings. So yes, it isn't for everyone, but it's probably for more of us than not.
Well, when you just look at the, you look at how many people die from alcohol or, synthetic drugs that are prescribed to them versus natural plant medicines.
There's not even a comparison.
There's not even a comparison. It's zero, right? I mean, I think there's a statistic on marijuana that it's zero. Like, nobody's died from ingesting it, like taking it in, right?
Correct.
There's never been a death. Has there been a death from any, like, can you OD on psilocybin?
You can definitely take more than you should.
But it won't.
But it's not, the toxic effects are at such a level that that's not really what the issue is. It can be psychologically very traumatic if you take too much.
So the question is, why was it ever illegal in the first place when these are natural products?
Well, I think people regulate against the things that they're scared of themselves. And when the ego is in control, right, the ego is firmly in control, it's scared of the reevaluation. It's scared of losing its power seat running the human organism, right? It's almost like an entity that itself wants to survive by the belief of the organism that it exists in. Like the ego wants to be real. Like, I want to be a real boy. And that's like fucking like Pinocchio or whatever. Like, I'm going to be a real, I'm going to be a real boy. And that's what the ego says. And it's like, oh, this thing, psilocybin, might show the embodied consciousness of the being that I'm residing in, that I'm not really that real. I'm just kind of a temporary apparition that is operating within this organism. So, well, what's the ego going to do? Well, if the ego's running the ship, maybe it can convince other people to outlaw this thing and villainize it and make it illegal. I don't think it's this grand conspiracy to keep people down and to keep people stupid. Like, people have these big conspiracy theories. I think people just regulate against the stuff that they're afraid of.
Okay.
And so people who have strong egos were afraid of these things that were ego dissolving. And so, we outlawed those. But the consequences of that are that we don't have the tools to really resolve the traumas and really unwind some of these patterns. And I think that's the revolution that's coming with this next wave of psychedelic medicine.
What do you think? What will all be legal in 20 years?
Well, I think you got to draw a clear distinction between a drug and a medicine. Like a drug can be used, and anything can be used for actually both, to a certain degree, so like, but like alcohol is mostly used as a drug. It's an inebriant. It's something that actually lowers your level of consciousness for the most part. And that's typically what it's used for. So, but when you experience something like ayahuasca, or you experience something like the right dose of a psychedelic, it's not that you're not sober. It's actually like you're hyper sober. It creates a form of hyper sobriety. You feel more like yourself than you've felt ever before, rather than, I don't even remember what happened last night. It's like, I'm never going to forget this for the rest of my life. It's the opposite framework. So I think anything that engenders that kind of awareness and awakeness and the ability to heal, I think all of those things are going to become legal. So what is that? That's peyote, that's San Pedro, also known as wachuma, that's ayahuasca, that's DMT, that's iboga, that's, all of psilocybin, all of these different things. Marijuana obviously is already on its way. But all of these things that can be used as these tools, MDMA, they're all going to become legal. MDMA and psilocybin are going to be legal within the next 3 years. They've already gone through phase 2 clinical trials.
There's things with psilocybin that are already transitioning.
Yeah, and then the decriminalization that's happened in Denver, the Legalized Nature Initiative in Oakland, it's already on its way and it's already happening. But I think all of these things will be there. And then we'll start taking a good look at these other tools that we've used, which have been crutches in a lot of these psychiatric medications. I mean, there's some psychiatric medications where suicidality and homicidality are side effects. Like Chantix.
Oh yeah, and the commercial that they have to put on TV for 3-minute commercial. It's like may create drowsiness, may make you suicidal.
Yeah. Whoops.
What?
Yeah. Like.
Hang on. Wait. What did you just say?
Is that the right tool? And so I think we'll take a real look, and maybe for some people it is, but we'll have a lot more well-rounded approach and opinion about, all right, what can we do to actually cure people? Because that's what we're seeing in the psychedelic medicine paradigm, is we're seeing cures. We're not seeing, people who are hobbled and able to just get by, which is what a lot of the, treatment options are now for different psychiatric conditions. It's like, take this pill forever and you'll be kind of okay. But what we're seeing with MDMA-assisted psychotherapy, people who have severe post-traumatic stress disorder that is treatment resistant, so none of the other drugs are working, treatment resistant, are curing themselves 2 out of 3 times. Like 2 out of 3 people are curing themselves from the 3 sessions alone. And not only that, not only are they curing themselves, measured by the PTSD threshold markers, in a follow-up of years later, they continue to get better.
Wow, that's
without ever having to do it again, right? So it's like it's changing the paradigm from, okay, you're a broken person, we just need to apply this pill and you'll be okay.
Push repeat, just keep pushing repeat on this pill.
Exactly, push repeat to...
Give us your money.
Exactly, to maybe all you need to do is you can do this thing and you can be cured. And psilocybin is showing this with 1 dose, like 1 dose smoking cessation, 1 dose, depression alleviation, 1 dose anxiety alleviation.
I mean, the conspiracy thought of that I would go to is that, and I've said this many times, like there's no money in wellness, right? No drug companies are making a fortune off of people walking around well.
No.
There's some conspiracy to that. There has to be.
No doubt. I mean, and these organisms, I think people have, when you're in an organism like a giant pharmaceutical company, like that organism itself, even though it's not alive, it wants to live. And it wants to live. And it wants to live. And by live, it means it wants to be profitable. Because these things die when they're not profitable. Like an organization dies when it's not profitable.
Right.
All the people who are feeding off this mothership organism, they have to get new jobs and their security is threatened and whatever. So it's really easy to just kind of turn a blind eye when you're actually the money that's putting food on the table for your children, your ability to take a vacation is all dependent upon this organism, which is feeding you. It's dependent upon that survival. So then the organism itself starts to have these profit motivations that everybody's kind of like just not really looking too deeply in, because I love my kids and I love my family and I love being able to go to Hawaii and I love all these things. Like, I don't want to let this thing die because we're not really helping people. So I think it's less of this overall, like, we're going to fuck the world up kind of conspiracy. It's more like, we're just kind of allowing this thing to happen and make profits so that we can get the money and that we can have our kind of lives. But I think that is all changing, because look, you look at psilocybin, it grows in cow shit all over the world.
Who do you think was the first, how long ago, and what do you think the first person was thinking when they're like, were they just so hungry that they're like, God, I've seen something like that before.
That little shitty mushroom looks good.
It's just, you know what, I'm starving. Like, what happened where somebody goes, I'm just going to pick this mushroom out of shit, see how it goes.
You know what's interesting is, like, there's some evidence that it's actually people observing animals that's created some of the aha moments for this. So maybe they watched an animal, like, because they've watched, like, jaguar, like one of the understandings of how ayahuasca was formed was watching jaguars eat the bark of the ayahuasca vine, and then watching them go into this kind of, even though it's not psychoactive with the DMT, it has a strong MAOI. Okay. So they're getting a little bit, different. And people like, if someone observed that, and then there was, and
they didn't die.
They didn't die, and they looked kind of like high. And like the imperative to get high is like universal. All animals like to get high. Dolphins get high on pufferfish.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, dolphins will puff, pass. They'll get one of those pufferfish toxins.
Is that where it came from?
Yeah, I don't know. It could have been. But they'll like get a pufferfish and they'll blow it up and they'll squeeze it a little bit and it'll release its toxin, and just a little bit of that pufferfish toxin will get the dolphins high.
Okay.
And they'll be like this in the water, like looking around. They love getting high.
Sending sonar out for the next pufferfish.
Yeah, exactly. Elephants like getting drunk. Like all of these animals. Bears will jump in and drink a bunch of liquor. Like a lot of animals.
I wonder what the dogs do. My dogs do to get high.
I don't know. They'll eat your fucking weed brownies though in a second. But yeah, like animals have this imperative to get high, and I think looking at the animals might have been the way that's like, all right, well, this animal, this fox came in and munched this mushroom. I don't know if foxes eat mushrooms. I don't know how that would happen, and then look at it. It's all like it's all looking around like, wow, reevaluating the universe, and then maybe that caused the human to be like, what happens if I eat that mushroom? And that could be the way that some of these things are discovered, or maybe someone's just hungry or really curious or experimental, or who knows. But I think there was wisdom guiding us to these tools, because they're just too valuable.
So what's I feel like just big ships are hard to turn, and people are closed-minded, and change is something that's so difficult. Like why do people struggle so much with change and, changing a whole paradigm of something or a perspective?
Yeah, I think it's, that fear of loss of control. We have this fallacy of control that we want to hold on to. We want to feel like we know what's going to happen. We want to feel like we're anticipating all of the possible outcomes, and change puts question marks in a lot of areas. If you're changing, then your orientation to everything changes. If your company's changing, if the world's changing, if anything is changing, the presidency is changing, whatever, like you can get scared about anything.
How's that going to affect me?
How's that going to affect me? Like we want to have everything solved. We want to have everything figured out. Yeah. And even I'm like that, you're like that. We try to project in the future and figure out all the things, and get this certainty about things. So, and change cuts the fundamental belief in certainty. And I think so we avoid that if we're not moving from fear to faith.
Yeah.
And if we don't have faith that the change is going to yield a positive result, which it always fucking does.
I just feel like for me, change is one of those things where we're not actually afraid of something changing, because the idea would be that you're trying to change for the better most of the time. Like something needs to happen or been pushed to happen. It's the fixation and the attachment to something that you've dreamt up in your head or a routine of life that you're scared won't ever be again. And the thought of humans with the word never again or over forever are really like powerful, strong fear factors. Like, I'll never see you again, and I'll never see that person at work again, and oh my gosh, I'll never see my car again. It was my first one. And like we have to let go of the things that we've been so attached to, even though you're going to get a better car, you're getting a Lambo, right? Or you're getting a better job, you're going to get paid more, you're going to be with better people. You know, you're going to upgrade your relationship. I know it's over, but just wait. Like I just feel like we're afraid of, it's the death of something that is the attachment, which, you know, has to be the death of it. That's the part that we can't handle, not the fact that something better is coming or could be coming. And
that's, you know, it's kind of the double-edged sword, because we are in this temporal existence. We have to let go of all of life. Like, we are going to die. And we're going to have to give everything up. We don't get to take any of this with us. You know, and that idea is both terrifying and also what gives the specialness to our lives. Like, you know, there's a quote from the movie Troy, which I really loved, and it's the character Brad Pitt playing Achilles, and he says, "The gods envy us because we're mortal. That makes everything all the more precious," right? Because if you have an abundance of anything, you actually don't even care about it anymore. You get tolerant of it. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I got all of the, like when you're a kid and you have candy, you know, and like that, you can't go to the store yourself and get candy. You're like, oh, candy today, Halloween, fucking great. And then you get a car and you have $20, you can buy all the candy you want. And you're like, I don't fucking care about candy. You know, like, it doesn't matter anymore because you have an unlimited supply of it. But it was the scarcity of it that created that crazy like drive and value for it. And I think so that's life itself, right? Like, we can appreciate the fact that these things aren't going to be here forever, and that can drive us deeper into the present moment. And we're not going to have these bodies forever. We're not going to be this young forever. We're not going to have these lovers forever. Maybe we will, but maybe we won't, but we're not going to have these experiences forever. So let's really, really enjoy them, you know, while we can, and allow ourselves to mourn the past. And that's hard. I mean, as I mentioned, like, I just transitioned my relationship with Whitney. There's some deep mourning, like deep mourning. Like, fuck, I'm gonna miss her. Again, I'm gonna miss her like bad.
Absence, the death of something.
And then I look back, at all the times I just took that for granted. All those, you know, sessions of making love and kissing her, where I was just like, yeah, whatever, you know, no big deal. And then it's gone, and you're like, oh man. Like, I didn't always enjoy that all the way. And those are lessons you got to learn, but then just allowing yourself to mourn and to grieve that and to move on and know that, like, okay, learn that better the next time.
So what's your mission moving forward? And then, you know, what's your hope for the world?
Yeah, I mean, my mission is to help people recognize that we are living in heaven if we choose to make it that way, you know, and that's the mission that I want to help people realize, and that we're all co-creating this experience that's really incredibly rad and beautiful, and that the earth is amazing, and that people are amazing, and it doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left or what color or what sexual orientation, it doesn't matter. We're all people, we're all animals, we're all part of this earth, part of this grand game that couldn't possibly be any better.
Generally want the same thing. We want to be happy.
We do. And so, like, helping people realize that so that we can enjoy this and also preserve it. I mean, I think that's my greatest calling. And so that again, it always starts with the individual. So like, I'm looking at that, I want to do that for the world. okay, Aubrey, how about you be happier yourself? How about you enjoy the world a little bit more yourself? How about you judge people a little bit less? Like, I can start right now with me, and I'm always have to remind myself that. You know, it's sometimes easier to project that I'm going to help the world, and meanwhile I'm just grumbling to myself, just worried about my own. Yeah, and that's the thing. So be the one. Yeah. Be the one who loves people, you know, universally and equivalently, and then show other people that that's possible. Yeah. And I think that's really, when it boils down to it, what I'm realizing is the most important thing. And I still got a lot of work to do. But
don't we all?
Yeah.
Don't we all? Well, thank you so much. That was a great conversation. I feel like a lot of people are really going to be helped by that.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it's been great to be able to hang and drop in on both these podcasts.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.